Hey, what's up everyone? In this video, I'm going to share with you a Moleskine sketchbook that I finished. I'm going to walk you through, give you a sketchbook tour of every page. And what makes this sketchbook unique is that I used a ballpoint pen for most of it. And I've been really loving the ballpoint pen. There's a lot you can do with just this simple pen. So I've been exploring and trying to go deep with what this can do. You can get a lot of amazing line quality and dimension with just this pen. So moving on, the first page is, of course, a study of crows. I love drawing crows. I don't know why. I don't have a specific reason other than I like their shapes. I like their texture. They're just fun to draw. They're fun to draw quickly. And I'm always using hatching as my main source of finding values in what I draw. And I draw a lot of birds. You'll see I draw a lot of parrots, and I'll occasionally try to draw cats and other mammals, but for some reason birds are just so much more easier for me to draw. I enjoy drawing them. I think they're mysterious. There's an undertone to them that I like to use in my drawings, like a nice story. This is, I think, an African gray I drew. And I'm using a lot of just basic contour line drawing to draw in my sketchbook. I feel like I can get a lot drawn pretty quickly by just using contour line. And if I really feel like it, I'll use cross or just regular hatching to nail down some of the values and some shapes that make up the form of it. This is a simple parrot sketch. I just left this spread as is. I liked how simple it looked right in the center of the page, so I just left it. And this is a study of different crows, kind of a multiple imaging approach where you just keep drawing over one study with another. And I also like to use hatching to just nail down the values of a certain part of a bird or what I'm drawing, because I feel like it brings the viewer's eyes right up to that area and kind of leaves everything else as a suggestion. Something to experiment with more. And I went all out and started drawing grasshoppers on this page, did a full study. I like drawing insects as well, especially grasshoppers, because they have these really amazing, almost armor-like qualities to them. They have a lot of interesting shapes to draw that are sometimes just fun to draw when you're not exactly sure what you want to draw. So recommend drawing grasshoppers. This is a study of a mouse. And once again, I use that multiple imaging approach to just kind of fill up the spread and draw over drawings with other drawings to give it a feeling of motion. Continuation of the mice. Once again, I'm using that cross hatching or just the hatching to just nail down a suggestion of the values. I like using just hatching because it's immediate, it's fast, and fun to do, and I'm just casually sketching in my sketchbook. I like how he turned out. Kind of a fat, happy looking mouse face. And then I did a study of faces on this spread. And typically I'll just pull up Pinterest and search for what I'm feeling like drawing at that time. So here I'm using contour lines, but I'm using them very loosely to kind of nail down the form. I'm not doing one single line and then leaving it. I'm kind of just finding the form with just many loose lines. And that goes for the subtle features that I'm capturing too. I'm not giving too much detail, but I'm just adding in loose lines to find the form. Most of it's just a suggestion of what I'm looking at. I'm not capturing everything I'm looking at, just a casual, quick sketch that gets the idea across. And this is another multiple imaging approach. This is probably a few drawing sessions. I maybe drew this for 15 minutes and then came back later and drew that guy. And then maybe the next day came and just messed around and added a face, more toucans. And then at the end, it looks like everything's intentional, and it creates for an interesting spread in your sketchbook when you just keep drawing over and over. This is a rabbit study, more of a hare. And then I added some botanicals and 2 parrots. And yeah, I like it when things just kind of mix together and everything's unintentional and just fills up the spread and kind of creates an interesting composition at the end of the day. And this was from a tutorial. It's a continuous line sketch. So I used a really thin Sharpie marker and drew this entire scene. It's on my living room. Then I drew it all in one line without lifting up my pen. And you can find that on my channel. 2 more parrots. Looks like I just took my time on these 2 and just slowly built up the lines with ballpoint pen just to casually suggest some values, nothing photorealistic or anything. Same with this guy. I kept it very loose. It almost looks like it's still in motion. None of these lines are nailing the form down exactly, but it's enough to get the idea across. Another crow. And once again, I'm just using that really quick hatching to just find the shapes of the shadows and nail them down. And this sketch is probably 10 minutes. But as you can see, I nailed down a lot of the values in a very loose way. And I felt good with it. And I moved on to the next spread. An eagle and a horse. 2 separate studies I did. I don't really draw horses very often, but they do have interesting faces and they also have really nice eyes to draw. So if you want to study animal eyes, definitely look up some reference for horses. Yeah, I could definitely go deeper on horses. It's actually a whole realm of art. It's just equestrian art. There's some artists that just draw horses and actually make a good living at it too. And I love drawing owls. I feel like owls, out of most of the birds, have really interesting shapes made up by their feathers, the shadows from the feathers, and of course, interesting structure in their face as well. And then another owl. Sometimes owls are a little challenging because they do have a lot of like tufts of feathers covering their beak. So you really have to have a good composition of the owl or a good pose to really communicate that it's an owl, which is probably why I added a suggestion of like a feather being or a wing being extended. I need to start finding more reference with extended wings because I feel like I don't draw them as often. For drawing birds as much as I do, I really don't draw a lot of wings that are extended. And hummingbirds are great to draw as well. I love drawing hummingbirds. And I'm going to start adding more botanicals in with my drawings. They just fit with the birds and kind of sets more of a abstract scene. And I always recommend just having multiple studies on one page. It just makes the spread feel more finished and more interesting to look at. I think I was playing around with a logo idea. And then more hummingbirds. And I'm just using hatching again just to give a suggestion, just to push the values back a little. I'm not being accurate by any means. And then here I'm trying to nail down a lot of the abstract shapes caused by the feathers. Another spread of hummingbird studies. Hummingbirds are great to draw in this kind of loose way too, because they're always, you never actually see their wings. So when you draw them in this multiple imaging look, it feels like they're moving. So they lend well to sketching, I think. And then a happy macaw. And a very subtle raven. I think I gave up on this drawing and moved on to the next spread, but there's a lot that can still be said with keeping some spreads really simple. And then I spent more time on this guy. And once again, just using really loose hatching to nail down a suggestion of the color and the values. And then this is more of a moody crow. I spent a lot more time just kind of finding the values and shapes and accentuating the focus of the eye by adding these kind of circles, not circles, but curved hatching. Some more crow studies. And then I started playing around with some frog studies. And then I started doodling more on this part, just kind of giving a bulbous water suggestion. Since frogs always are in water, I wanted to give a sense of water in a splash, but I think I was kind of going for more of a surreal, like anti-gravity blob look. Something I can explore more. I actually want to do some more just doodles, just playing around with 3D looking doodles. And another macaw I spent a lot of time on, just using a ballpoint pen to get these darker values. And some hummingbird studies. And betta fish. Those betta fish are great to draw when you feel like you want to draw something more flowy. Their fins are amazing to draw. And you don't have to draw them exactly. They can do really nice gestures of betta fish, and they just feel good on your sketchbook page, like they're floating. These would also lend well to if you want to experiment with watercolor. You can just put a splash of color and it would feel finished. It would just, a flowy watercolor splash would just look good on that. Some more puffy looking macaws, more parrots. There's a hummingbird getting some nectar. Very loose sketch. I probably did this really quick, maybe 60 seconds. And then this looks cool. On the other page, I used marker on this vulture, but it bled through onto this crow, but I think it looks cool. And here I was using just hatching to kind of push the background back a little. And then this I used a just normal Sharpie marker. I don't have one near me right now, but it's just a fat marker. And those are great to draw with if you just want to focus on overall silhouettes and shapes of what you're looking at. They're great because you don't have to focus on too much detail and you can just get a quick drawing out. Same with this, I drew it with a Sharpie. And then I went back in with my ballpoint pen to give more detail in the hatching. But when you look really close, it's messy, but from a distance, it just feels nice. It feels like a complete drawing. And then I started using, again, Sharpie and ballpoint pen. I just used Sharpie to kind of accentuate some of the contours. And then I went in with my ballpoint pen to kind of nail down some of the values really loosely. Another crow. A lot of Sharpie on top of the ballpoint pen. I think I had a ballpoint pen drawing and then I went back later with a Sharpie just to play around. Nice profile of a crow. I think I spent way more time on this one. This feels a little more detailed. Played around with some of the shapes and the hatching just to kind of suggest different parts of the feathers. Tyrannosaurus Rex. I think I just drew this from imagination. There's not really a reference. So Just kind of started very loose and just found the form with very loose lines. And as soon as it felt right, I drew darker. Just kept it loose. There's not really an exact form. It's just loose lines, loose contour lines. Another loose, that's a good example of finding the form with loose lines. They just kind of end up working together in a very expressive way. Another T-Rex. I like mixing different animals on pages too. It gives it a more surreal feel. I think if I added that bulbous anti-gravity water looking doodle here, that would go in and out, maybe around the bird. That would be more surreal. That'd be an interesting larger piece, maybe a painting. But yeah, I could go back and maybe doodle a little bit on this page. Little tiger study, very loose contour lines once again. And this is just a little, I think, brown bird. I don't know the name of it, but it's a very common bird. T-Rex. Yeah, so a lot of people that draw dinosaurs will mix maybe reference photos of iguana or reptiles, and they'll merge different references together when they're drawing. Another crow. This one's a little more detailed than the previous pages. And more betta fish. I spent more time on the kind of scales on it. They also have really interesting textures, betta fish, if you find some good reference photos of them. Yeah, a really easy thing to do would be to just add a splash of watercolor and it would look really finished. Little tree frog. And I added more wispies in the background on this one. I think that's something I want to start doing more of too, is just adding very loose lines in the backgrounds to kind of draw more backgrounds. I really don't draw many backgrounds in my sketchbook. And I think I was just playing around, looking at reference, looking at old animation books. I think I was just doodling. And this isn't ballpoint pen. This is a more inky uniball pen. And I was looking at a palm tree. I always have a trouble drawing palm trees for some reason. They're full of really interesting shapes and I want to draw them. But when I do draw them, at the end, it just seems like a mess. But fun to draw regardless. This is like a little outdoor scene. I was playing with continuous line as well, where you don't lift up your pen at all. I think that's about it for this Moleskine. So yeah, this is the classic Moleskine people have. This is like 8.5 by 5 inches. I like Moleskines. What I don't like about them is that they are off-white. They're not like a pure white, but I do love that they're extremely archival. You can finish a sketchbook, put it on your bookcase, and it won't fade. It won't turn yellow. They're great books. But yeah, thanks for watching. This is my sketchbook tour, and I have many more I'm working on. I have some accordion looking Moleskines where it's one continuous piece. This is what it is. It's on the Japanese album, but it's basically one continuous piece of paper. So you can do really long stretches. So that'll be my next one I'm working on. But thanks for watching. If you like sketchbook tours, I'm going to try and do more of them. I have a stack of sketchbooks I need to sit down and make a video for. And so if you want to see those, subscribe to my channel. And if you like this video, hit the thumbs up. And I really appreciate you watching. Thank you.